Hi everyone, my name is Avery Stratton, and this is my final case study presentation. So, a little bit of background about my student. For the purposes of confidentiality, we're going to be calling my student Gabe. He is a second grade male, and he actually has his first IEP meeting scheduled for this December. He possibly has ADHD, but that is just through observation and symptoms noted in class. The subject of intervention is reading in this case. So my initial assessment administered for Gabe was the Dibbles and X assessment. I included over here his PLAFT. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but as you can see, he read 7 words per minute on his first Dibbles and X assessment at the second grade reading level with a 47% accuracy. So this really displayed the need for intensive reading intervention. And as a result, the SPIRE curriculum has been incorporated into his reading group for intervention. And his challenges in reading and writing have also impacted his ability to maintain achievement in the general curriculum and have affected his success in other subject areas such as math, history, and science. So for his goals at the second grade level are to demonstrate mastery of age-appropriate phonological awareness skills. So that's kind of the adding, deleting, substituting initial and final phonemes in words, and then demonstrating mastery of age-appropriate phonics skills. So this is kind of beginning reading and spelling words with different syllable types. And then lastly, he will read at grade level text with accuracy and fluency to support comprehension. And this will all be measured by the special education teacher during those curriculum-based assessments, which are informal and formal. So the SPIRE intervention curriculum has been used in the practicum that I was in for Gabe. So this curriculum was actually designed by Sheila Clark Edmonds, who has over 30 years of experience with students with these different learning disabilities. So the SPIRE curriculum is actually based on Orton Gillingham methodology, which enforces components of the National Reading Panel, such as phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, which are major components to help readers with success and development. So this curriculum is actually specifically designed for at-risk or struggling readers, especially for those in RTI tiers 2 and 3. So I'm going to go over in the next few slides about the specific curriculum, what it looks like, but it is a 10-step lesson structure included in this curriculum, and each lesson engages multisensory pathways to the brain to enhance memory and learning. So the two types of lessons in the SPIRE include an introductory lesson, which is when the concept is introduced, and then those reinforcement lessons to promote mastery. So there's a lot of research supporting this intervention. This first point talks about the importance of teaching phonics and word recognition to young students. So Gabe is at that second grade level, and without intervention, he's going to fall behind quickly. And so incorporating this intensive intervention is extremely important for his future success. The National Reading Panel and the No Child Left Behind Act called for the explicit systematic reading instruction. And so SPIRE strives to basically incorporate these principles of teaching reading instruction. And the National Reading Panel really finds it to be effective in teaching phonological awareness in improving those skills in reading. So the iSpire addresses the best practices as set forth by different organizations, and Spire is shown to be effective in helping these students receive the intervention that they need to develop. So in my first lesson intervention, basically Gabe is being pulled out of the general classroom and put into a reading intervention group with 3 other students. So with there only being 3 other students, there's a lot more individuality and a higher focus on his specific needs. So this reading group takes place 4 days a week, and it's been really effective in helping him progress towards his goals. And as a teacher, progress monitoring is another component that has been helpful in understanding where Gabe is at and creating goals based on his needs. So the iSpire lesson format, there's 10 steps, like I said. So typically lessons include phonogram cards first, and then a focus on phonological awareness, word building, decoding and sentence reading, pre-reading, reading, sound dictation, pre-spelling, spelling, and then a sentence dictation. And for a specific example, the essential questions may include what does the sound O make? Or what sound does the vowel O make? So specifically within the lessons in my practicum experience, we're really focusing on vowel sounds first. And then later in the semester and the year, we'll get into more of like SH, CH, those things, a little bit more complicated. But for now, through my practicum experience, it was all vowel sounds. So specific goals in this lesson would be Gabe will be able to read words up to 5 letters while recognizing the pronunciation of short O. Gabe will be able to read short phrases with 70% accuracy, including words with short O included. And then Gabe will be able to read sentences with 70% accuracy in a concept assessment to be able to move forward to the next lesson. So I'm going to be talking about these assessments in a bit. So with a specific lesson plan, it may look like phonogram review first. So there's about 20 letters to review. Students would be encouraged to all participate. So Gabe, in this case, would say the letter and say the sound associated with that letter. Next would be decodable words review. So there's roughly about 10 words for this section. Students would think individually, give a thumbs up when they're ready to share, and then share it as a class. Segmentation practice was typically encouraged next through the intervention. So this is kind of using a more hands-on activity such as circle-shaped markers to represent each letter in the word. The teacher would always model first. So that would be myself or the teacher in the practicum. It was either of us teaching the lesson. And then, so we'd model the word and students would then provide examples for the next words and practice individually. Small letter sets were another component of the SPIRE curriculum. So this really focused on segmentation and deletion through spelling. Then there was a reading workbook, practicing for decoding and fluency, as well as short story comprehension practice. So this was typically reading a short story and then being asked questions and encouraging participation. Gabe often shared or was encouraged to share his thoughts, and he did a great job participating in these activities. So assessments in the lesson were typically concept assessment tests. So this was at the end of each lesson, in which single word reading, phrase reading, and sentence reading were components of the assessment. So this really tested for his overall reading improvement and his ability to segment and things like that. So single word reading is graded through the number of words that the student reads correctly out of 4 words. So if the lesson was on short O, the words associated or included, I guess, in the concept assessment were involving short O to test for mastery. So phrase and sentence reading were graded out of 2 total phrases and sentences. And then when Gabe received at least a 6 out of 8 on the lesson concept assessment, the teacher could move on to the next lesson. And if it was not completed with this accuracy, then further instruction was implemented until shown for mastery. Gabe always overall scored high enough to show mastery. But again, progress monitoring is extremely important, and kind of reviewing those previous lessons at times will help aid in mastery. So I provided here the Dibbles Next assessment results. These, like I said, were conducted about every month. So overall, if we look at the trend line, it's going upwards. So that's great to see for Gabe, which shows that the intervention is working. So the Spire curriculum is helping Gabe understand and improve in those key reading areas. And then the Spire assessment data is what I used more frequently to assess his understanding and his mastery. So here's an example of lesson 2A, in which, like I said, sentence, word reading, phrase reading, and single word reading were all included. And then by 3B, he showed mastery completely across the board. So he was able to move on with both of these lessons, but it was cool to see by the end that he was really progressing and being able to perform and successfully complete those quick checks. So I also included a summary of all of the quick checks I administered. So overall, again, the trend line is upwards. This one, there's not as much variation, but overall, Gabe showed mastery in all of the lessons that were taught to him involving vowel sounds. So I also observed his behavior, just to kind of take this out as a variable in his performance in reading. Gabe really showed that he had great behavior through my observation. At times he would kind of fidget or get up, but overall he was extremely respectful and listened to directions, followed directions. So that was great to see. Next steps. I personally believe that spelling tests should be kind of another dimension of learning incorporated into Gabe's intervention based on his data. So in the Spire curriculum, there is spelling practice, but I would like to see more of kind of a concept quick check involving spelling or more written practice. Another idea I have is to administer a reading comprehension test through reading a short story and then asking the student questions to answer, whether that's written or verbally, just to check for that understanding and help develop those reading comprehension skills. So overall too, I would incorporate more opportunities for Gabe to practice the skills he's learning. So he is, like I said, getting that 45-minute lesson 4 days a week. But when we can encourage reading at home as well, this will really aid in his development and help his overall success in reading. So encouraging practicing of whether it's phonogram cards and decodable words or things like spelling or reading books, it's all going to be beneficial for Gabe since he's in that high intervention care, I guess. Continuing to progress monitor with Gabe is essential as well as a teacher. So making those changes and adaptations as needed and assessing where he's at is extremely important, as well as spending more time teaching lessons as needed. So I might even encourage bumping up the number of lessons to 5 days a week, or increasing the length of the lessons to 1 hour as opposed to 45 minutes. I think the more intervention Gabe receives, the better off he'll be. And he's doing a great job, and we're seeing the positive results that are coming from the interventions. But increasing this and continuing to monitor is extremely important. So working with Gabe has been awesome. I've learned a lot, and it was really cool to see his improvement over time through intervention. And here are my references. Thank you guys for watching.